Good afternoon. I'd like to call this committee meeting to order for November the 4th and invite Julie Hale, the Deputy Clerk, to do the roll call.
Thank you. Regional Chair Redmond.
Present.
Councillor Craig.
Present.
Chair Erb.
Present.
Councillor Foxton.
Present.
Councillor Gowing. Oh, I think he just stepped away. Councillor Harris, are you online with us?
Yes, I am. Yep.
Thank you. Councillor Hunick.
Present.
Councillor James.
Present.
Councillor Liggett.
Present.
Councillor McCabe. Councillor Novak. Councillor Rodriguez. Councillor Salonen.
Present.
Councillor Shantz.
Present.
Councillor Bogdanovich. And Councillor Wolf.
As we begin this meeting, we are again reminded that many of our homes and places of employment in Waterloo region are situated on the land that is the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee, Anishinaabe, and Nishitan peoples. We recognize and deeply appreciate their historic connection to Waterloo region, and we also recognize the contributions Indigenous peoples have made in shaping and strengthening this community. We are grateful for the opportunity to live and work here and reaffirm our collective commitment to keep the promise that reconciliation takes place through learning and community building with Indigenous people who continue to live here. We are all treaty people with a responsibility to honor all of our resident relations. Are there any declarations of pecuniary interest under the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act? There are none. We have no presentations. We have some delegations, and just a reminder before we hear from our delegations, I'd like to remind everyone of some guidelines for participation. If you're joining in person, and I think that's what's happening today, please proceed to the podium and when you're called upon to speak. Additionally, some gentle reminders. If you conduct yourself in any of the following manners, it will result in an immediate removal from the meeting: interrupting councillors, staff, or other delegations, derogatory statements about councillors, staff, or others, and hate speech or defamatory comments. And one last reminder for delegations, please do not take any offense if following your presentation there are no questions from council. This is council's time to really listen and reflect upon the opinions and ideas shared with us from our community members. A quick reminder to members of the audience, you are asked to maintain order, and this means that you may not address the committee without the permission of the chair, interrupt anyone, disrupt the meeting with unreasonable noise or vocal expression, such as applause, booing, or cheering, or the display of signs or posters. We're on to item 5.1. We have two people here as delegates, Laura Hamilton and Marion Thompson-Howell of a Better Tent City. Welcome. You have 5 minutes, and I would invite you to come to the podium. I don't think if you want to push the button there to...
Where it says push. Thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm Laura Hamilton. I'm one of the people who worked to establish a Better Tent City. I'm on the board and a volunteer, and I'm here with my colleague on the board, Marion Thompson-Howell, and we will speak briefly about the report that involves funding a Better Tent City. I'm grateful to be here this afternoon to tell you about the impact of the life-changing support that the region has provided to a Better Tent City. We provide a temporary home for adults who've experienced chronic unsheltered homelessness. Prior to coming to us, some of our residents had lived rough for more than 10 years. We know that the longer people live rough, the more isolated they become, the more difficult life becomes, and the more likely they are to experience mental illness, drug addiction, and human trafficking. The result is that all of our residents arrive with very complex needs that can preclude them from seeking shelter elsewhere or for living independently. As the report that you received indicates, your funding represents approximately 24% of our current annual budget, and we've dedicated your funds to cover the costs of our 4 core staff positions. Thank you. This funding has given us the foundation we needed to develop and deliver this life stabilization programming and services. We call this belonging and inclusion programming, as we've learned the importance of relationships and a sense of belonging as first steps to build the necessary trust for our for our residents to engage in on-site counseling, programming, and referral services that support their mental and physical health. These include on-site addiction counseling and opioid replacement therapy, communication and conflict resolution skill building, actively supporting referrals to health and other essential life stabilizing services to prepare for transition to permanent housing, and our community helper programming that provides participants with opportunities to contribute to their community by assisting staff and volunteers and by taking responsibility for a variety of site maintenance activities. This initiative fosters strong relationships between participants, staff, and volunteers, creating a collaborative environment while contributing to community engagement, skill building, dignity, confidence, and well-being. Our belonging and inclusion programming and services have proven to be essential to stabilizing resident lives and ultimately supporting their successful transition to safe, stable housing. To date, we've supported 36 people to make this transition, and 60% of our current residents are considered housing offer ready by Starling, and we could not have accomplished this without your support.
Thanks, Laura. As I said, or as Laura said, I'm Marian Thompson-Howell. I'm a director at A Better Tent City. We recognize that housing outcomes are an important target for you, and we have worked hard to increase our outcomes to more closely match your expectations. One of our challenges is that as things change externally in the broader community, they impact us internally. Despite that, we have continued to adjust the conditions in the community, but we've also come to the realization that in order to be a part of the plan to support people and move them into housing, which is our joint priority, we have two challenges that we need help with. Our current staff are keeping us open, but the demands are growing beyond what they can manage. Number one, we need dedicated safety staff. As we develop plans to reopen our site to visitors, it is critical that we have the capacity to keep those who are not welcome out of A Better Tent City. We need dedicated staff to focus on safety at the Better Tent City site. All sites, not just us, have people who are not part of their community sneak through their gates. We are not unique in that. We need someone to monitor who should be there, who should not be there, and to facilitate their removal.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, Mary, just to remind you, you're down to your last minute.
All right. We also need dedicated housing staff. We provide accessible, safe transitional housing and have created an opportunity for those who've experienced chronic homelessness to stabilize their lives. Other sites have dedicated housing staff who work with residents daily on their housing goals. We rely on the support of outside agencies. Those agencies provide great support, but they are there one afternoon a week. To this end, we want to acknowledge the support you've given us, and we also ask that you increase our funding by $180,000. That will allow us to support those two positions and the programs that are accompanying them. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't see any questions. Oh, excuse me, Chair Redmond.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair Erb. Thank you very much for coming in. I know you really underscored that you have the same desire we do of moving people into housing. Can you just talk about sort of how you've managed to make that additional focus for A Better Tent City?
Sure. Yeah, it's the programming that I was mentioning, the community helper programming, the counseling and referral services. When I say that we actively support referrals, our staff will make sure that people attend the meetings that they set up. You know, they don't just say, you should really talk to such and such about this, they actually get them there. So, and that combined with on-site opioid replacement therapy and on-site addictions counseling, people are stabilizing their lives. We can get them to the point where they're transition ready. As I said, we've got, what are we now, 29 people of our current, so 60% of our residents are offer ready, they're ready to go. What we need is the help to make the connections to housing. You know, I've talked to folks who run other shelters, and they've got staff who are out there finding people places to stay. When we first set up at Lot 42, Nadine did a lot of that. She helped our folks move into apartments, return to their families. It takes a lot of dedicated staff time to do that, and we need the staff to help move people into housing. But we've done, I think, a pretty remarkable job considering how acute the needs are of the residents we have, to stabilize them to the point that where they are considered ready for housing.
And if I could, a second question, you said that as you prepare to allow visitors back, and I know that was a really difficult watershed moment for all of your dedicated staff and the people at A Better Tent City to decide that that was a change in policy. It sounds to me that now you're going back to what was, so I guess I'm just looking for some clarification around that.
I can speak to that. For those of you who don't know, on September the 1st, we introduced what we called a reset. At that reset, we removed all non-residents from our site. And we used the time between, we hired Better Street, as a matter of fact, at that point, to do a study and to come back with recommendations as to how we may readmit visitors to the sites. That's where we are right now. Up until now, we have been not having any visitors on site. We've been working with residents. We would like to be able to admit visitors to the capacity to which we can support them. We will never go back to what we had. But we are determining what that might look like. The residents are very supportive of that. The residents see going forward as something like their visitors, but we don't have the details as to what would happen. I will say, in support of what Laura just said, and further to your earlier question, one of the things the reset also allowed us to do was stop putting our energy on putting out fires associated with an overabundance of visitors, and put our energy into dealing with the residents who are a part of our official community. It's had a tremendous impact on that. And so we will be admitting visitors. We don't have the details of that. In fact, we're meeting tomorrow morning to start to work through those details.
And in fact, in terms of accessing supports and services...
Laura, can you lean into the mic?
Oh, sorry. In fact, instead of, in respect to accessing supports and services, we set up a tracking program so we could document, you know, the folks who were on site last year, and we did provide those access to the services and supports that I discussed earlier, talked about earlier, to 1,000 visitors to our site. So then you can see how that would stretch us with the staffing that we have. We have a fraction of the staffing of a traditional shelter, and 1,000 additional people receiving services was a lot. But we're confident we can find a good path forward.
Councillor McCabe?
Thanks very much. I actually, just to clarify what you were just saying, Laura, do you mean there was 1,000 visitors over the course of a year? That's what you tallied up? That actually wasn't my question, but it just prompted, what you said prompted that.
In a one-year period, we served over 1,000 individuals. Many of those individuals had repeated visits. Many of those individuals came and stayed for extended periods of time. So we did not measure time they were with us, that we measured the number of people who were non-residents who came to our site.
Okay. And, okay, so my actual question, thanks for clarifying that. You're requesting $180,000, and I assume this is over, like, what time period? It's in perpetuity, or it's over 2 years or 5 years, or just, do you think, for a year?
To be clear, it's 180 over what is recommended by staff. It's not just 180. And so it is building on the report you've already received. Certainly, it is a 1 year, it is per year, and we are hoping that you continue to fund us as we've become such an essential part of the service in this community, and we do it at a fraction of what other organizations do.
And I'm also, my follow-up question to that is are there funding programs through the province or the federal government that you're able to apply to as well, or is the region your sole source here?
No, we apply for a number of community grants. The Community Foundation has supported us. The United Way has supported us. A number of faith communities in our area have supported us. We apply for many grants. We apply for Trillium. It's a tough one. But no, there is no, we've talked to folks at the federal and provincial level, and unfortunately, our cabins don't have running water, and that precludes us accessing some of that funding. Running water, we don't have, we have heat, right? Folks have light, they have heat, but they don't have running water. Yeah.
Councillor
The other is that your funding, I want to make it clear, yours is not the only funding. We get housing allowance from residents. As Laura said, we do we apply for grants, and we do an extensive amount of fundraising. I just wanted to make sure you were clear on that.
Yeah, the funding that we receive from the region of Waterloo, the 236, I think, or 39,000, is 24% of our annual budget. So it's a lot of fundraising.
Yeah, thank you. No, I was, particularly interested in the provincial and federal funding.
Councillor Craig.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. Councillor McCabe asked two of my questions. I'm a bit confused. I've been out to Better Tent City about 3 times. Yeah, but that was over a year ago, a year and a half ago. Is the idea to fence it off, lock it down? What is happening here? So I have a better understanding when you talk about having someone patrolling and taking care of things.
It was fenced off in December of 2024. We have had a fence since December of 2024. And as I said, we've tried a number of things to manage the site. And so as of that point, there was a single access officially to get onto the site. The first plan we put in place worked, kind of. We put a second plan into place. It worked a little bit better, kind of. The reality is we still needed to remove visitors. So we have had a fence for a period of time.
Okay, so it's been fenced off. How many of your residents do you move out? Like, have you moved out in the last couple of years to transitional housing?
So since we began, which was April of 2020, we've moved 36 people into what we consider safe and supportive housing. We could move more. We have people that are offer ready. They've stabilized their lives. Starling has determined that they're offer ready. There aren't places for them to go. And unfortunately, the housing staff, as Marion mentioned, are only with us for an afternoon a week. But if we had a dedicated housing staff, which is what we're looking for with the additional funding, they could work with folks to help them to find accommodations.
How do people move in? Do you have people, staff out in the field recommending people to move in? How does that work?
I get, so one of the things I do is manage the inbox. A lot of people write to us and tell us incredibly sad and difficult stories about their family members or their lives, and they want to move in. We have focused on people that, as I mentioned, are chronically unhoused, so people who've been unhoused for years. And so they're particularly difficult to serve. And the way we have been choosing people has been through folks who show up at our site in need of supports and services and who meet that criteria of being chronically unhoused, but who also demonstrate a commitment to support the community, to engage in activities, and to participate in the community we've created.
Yeah, on my visitations, I well recognize the challenges you have, and they are fairly formidable. Thank you.
Yes, and we only have 42 cabins, and we can't expand the number of cabins we have. So we are limited by the space that we have.
Councillor Wolf.
Through you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for the presentation and thank you for the work you're doing. I'm curious about the security. So I now understand you've got a fence and one entrance, but do you have other people doing security at this point and you're just adding to it? Or will this person be your total security?
Want me to go? All hands on deck. Really is how security works. It is still somewhat porous because we are, 24/7. People live there. We have staff 24/7. What we need is someone to coordinate safety. So we've had neighborhood watch teams of our residents who work, patrol. They participate 2 at a time, keeping track of people coming and going, asking people who don't belong there to leave. But we need a dedicated security person. A security guard wouldn't necessarily be the answer. We're thinking more someone just to coordinate with staff and with residents, a way that we can manage the site.
Okay, because I was wondering if, obviously, there's people you don't want on the site who may come. And I was just wondering the difficulty of removing someone. Do you use the police at all?
Yeah, I can speak to that. It's really quite interesting how effective we've been at removing people from the site without police.
Okay.
There are times, there's absolutely no question, when we've had people who are banned and violent, that we would call on police services. But for instance, on September the 1st, when we introduced the reset, by noon we had removed approximately 80 visitors from the site. And we did it with the support of residents, and we did it without any violence. That was the criteria. And so, you know, we've worked on nonviolent methods and means of removing people. It is very seldom that we will rely on police. However, if we need to, we would. That's not our priority. Our priority is people understand it's not their community. We would like them to find someplace else to be.
So that's also why you want someone on staff?
That's right.
As opposed to a security company?
That's right. That's right. We want someone who's going to be able to help us coordinate some of that, provide the supports that we need. Right now, the Neighborhood Watch program that Laura talked about were staff who patrolled 24/7. They did a good job, but the reality is we need staff to coordinate that. We can't rely on the residents to be able to do all of that for us.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Hewnick?
Hi, thank you for coming today. Through the chair, you've mentioned that you need housing staff, but you've also mentioned that some residents are housing ready and have nowhere to go. So could you explain a bit more how the vision for the housing staff is going to work? Because the way you've described it seems like a bottleneck to me.
There's definitely a bottleneck. So that, I think, goes without saying. There's just not enough deeply affordable housing for people who live in poverty. And there's not enough transitional places beyond us. So when we have folks who are offer ready, they are able to move in, or determined by Starling that they're able to move into an independent living situation on their own, but they can't find them. So if we had dedicated staff, we would not be waiting for other folks to help connect our residents that are offer ready into housing, or to help them to move on. And we could do the work that other housing staff do, which is actively supporting people to find housing. And that can be working with friends and family. There's many ways that people can find housing. We just have not had the dedicated resources to help people to move on. So we can get them ready, and I think we've demonstrated that we can do that really well. It takes time, and we're working with extremely challenging folks. So we have managed to get, as I said, 60% right now are considered offer ready. But Starling is the first to say there's just not enough places for them to help people to move into. So that's our biggest challenge there.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you for attending, and also want to acknowledge Nadine Green, who is in the audience and integral part of A Better Tent City. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We are on to item number 6, the consent agenda. If you want to remove any item from the consent agenda, please indicate so now, as we'll not take any questions on consent items unless, I'm sorry.
That's okay. I was going to let you finish saying your sentence, but I would like to pull the item.
Okay. So,
You can finish what you were saying.
you know, they wrote this script for me that I need to.
Okay. I was just hoping
Councillor Solomon.
I was hoping to pull item 6.1.1, please.
6.1.1, okay. Deal with that first. Why don't you speak to that now, Councillor Salmon?
Thank you very much. Through you, Chair. I was just hoping, and if we could hear a little bit as to the justification for
this decision, it's not that I don't think it's important to have artwork, just looking at the price tag, like that's 1% in Wilmot's budget. So I was hoping that someone could just speak to, and I think it's a very cool project, but again, knowing all the asks coming up in our budget, I just struggle a little bit with this particular, I guess, proceedings.
You want to speak to that, Commissioner Regier?
Yeah, thank you. Through you, Chair, but the project, this particular project is being implemented as in response to our public art policy. We have an investment policy that supports investment in public art in all of our major capital projects. And there's a special allocation, a public art reserve, which is set up for this type of investment. It's seen as a critical part of our community building efforts, and in this particular case, the community was involved in the creation of and selection of the art. I can ask Julian Kingston, whose team managed the process of selecting the artist, if he has any additional comments.
Thank you. Through the chair, not much to add other than it's we've had a lot of community involvement in the selection of the piece and had a very strong slate of artists that competed for this particular selection, and we're quite happy with the selection.
Thank you. And again, I think it's a really cool project. I'm just balancing with all of the other asks. How is the Art Reserve Fund, where does that money come from?
So there's a portion usually that comes from the construction of the project that gets allocated for the reserve.
So in terms of it comes out of the capital funding that we raise for the project? Okay.
That's correct. It comes out of capital funding.
Okay, so not from development charges? No. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, I just want to reiterate, as a member of the Public Art Advisory Committee, the funding for this piece coming strictly from the Public Art Reserve. And so unless we're going to take from that to fund other projects, then this has no levy impact. Thank you.
Would you like to move this?
I'd be happy to.
Is there a seconder? Any other conversation? And use your e-scribe buttons then to indicate your support. Okay, and that is carried. 6.2 under consent was for information purposes only, so we don't need a motion to do that. Moving on to item number 7, and just before we do that, I know there's some council members that have a hard stop at 7 o'clock, at 4 o'clock, and I just want to double check how many there are so that we'll have a quorum. So Councillor Shantz and Councillor Nowak. So we had. Pardon? 4:30? Oh, okay, so, and you're leaving at 4? And you're leaving at 4. So we'll have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Are you online, Councillor Harris and Councillor Liggett? So we won't have a quorum then.
Yes, Chair, I'm here, sorry.
Okay. Don't go far.
I'll be here.
On to item number 7 then, the A Better Tent City grant funding review, and I'll call on Commissioner Sweeney to introduce the report.
Certainly, thank you. Yeah, just as a Point of order, the report here is indeed a staff recommendation to maintain the funding, as you heard from our delegates, but to refer that decision to your plan and budget in respect to the decisions that need to be made. With that, maybe Ryan can just spend a few minutes giving the highlights on that report. I'm appreciating you're also under the time constraint here too, but I'll just turn it over for Ryan for a couple comments.
Okay. Mr. Petitbier.
Yeah, thanks, Peter, and through you, Chair Erb. Good afternoon, Council and Chair Erb. The report in front of you today has some important context, information, and a proposed path forward for you to consider regarding our Waterloo Region Revitalization Plan, with a specific focus on the remaining 3 redevelopment projects. We have 3 other redevelopment projects that are well underway with the projected occupancy.
Mr. Petitbier, we're on a Better Tent City.
We're on a Better Tent City.
Yeah.
Apologies, I thought we were going to Waterloo Region.
No, sorry.
Nope. Thank you. Apologies, and embarrassingly. So comments on a Better Tent City.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so yeah, staff report for a Better Tent City. Thanks, Peter. Again, not a decision to be made this afternoon, but for your consideration through the budget process. We've been now funding a Better Tent City based on council direction for the last 2 years. The report in front of you speaks to some of the evaluation criteria and outcomes that they have. And as you heard through the delegates today as well, they've done some good work when it comes to housing readiness overall. Part of how we have organized around them based on how the funding was allotted to that organization, we don't hold them to the same standards administratively or through reporting as we do some of our other providers based on the funding that has been provided. Should we be continuing our funding relationship with the Better Tent City moving forward, then we'll look to continue to enhance the relationship that we have with them and the administrative support that they provide as a more formal member of our emergency shelter system overall. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Foxton.
Thank you, and through you, Chair. So I did speak to Nicole in regards to this funding, and I'm in favor of keeping it. It keeps us within the 5%. It's already included in, which is a good thing. And in the 2026, we will discuss whether we're going to make this a permanent funding or not. But I cannot see us going to the 180,000. That opens the door again. I want to remain that 5% or less. And so I agree with the recommendation, which is that the $236,300 an annual basis be referred to the 2026 budget, but we also allot it for this year, which is already concluded in the 5%. Thank you.
Councillor Hunick.
I'm happy to move the recommendation that staff proposed, or seconded if Councillor Foxton has already done that.
No, but point of order, it seems like a lot of times people are talking and then saying, I want to move it. And so it doesn't put it back onto the floor for the movement. I would prefer that we do it, that when you call for the motion, that's when we move and second it. That's my opinion. If others want to weigh in differently, that's fine too.
Okay. Councillor Hunick, do you want to speak to it at all, or I'll come back to you then later?
I agree with the staff recommendation.
Okay.
Thank you.
Chair Redmond.
Thank you, Chair Erb. I really like the stability of baking this into the budget, so I think this is a very good recommendation, recognizing this is a tough budget year, as many budget years are, and there will be sort of a balance of competing needs, so I'm supportive of this motion.
Councillor Rodriguez.
Thank you, Chair. And through you, just a question to staff. Not trying to say we need to always do more with less, but within our existing budget or within the existing portfolio that your team has, is there any ability to increase allocation within that, or has that been looked at through this report?
So, Councillor Rodriguez, just not to get too far ahead of the plan and budget, what we brought forward through community services and housing and homelessness in particular is our best foot forward on the allocation and the resources within the parameters that council has set.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you.
Yeah.
Councillor Craig.
Sorry, no. Having trouble with my computer here. I'm going to support the motion if it comes on the table at some point. But this whole issue around security, how do we get a better idea of what is actually happening as opposed to just a verbal presentation? I mean, can we ask well, I guess we can ask him to do anything almost, but I don't want to do that. But I'm looking for more information on the security issues they're having out there and what the difficulties are. Because I know from being out there in the past, they have challenges, and I can understand perhaps why they need more security there. Is there a manner in which we can get better information about how to support or look at the security issues?
Yeah, thanks, Councillor Craig. Yeah, we can certainly go back to the leadership of A Better Tent City and see if there's more information that they could provide. And I would suggest as an independent organization, volunteer-led, that they provide that directly to council. But we can certainly, and unfortunately our delegates have left today, but we can pass that along for sure.
Okay, no, I appreciate that. I just need more of an expansive overview of what's happening.
Councillor Schatz.
Thank you. In regard to the access to housing and their request for additional staff there, are there supports that they can access that maybe they aren't? That we could provide support that way rather than through a budget amount? I know you're already worked to the bone, but.
Yeah, through you, Chair. Yes, and so part of my earlier comments are if we're annualizing A Better Tent City into our regular budget, there's additional work that staff can do to better support through administration, documentation, and get a better sense on overall incidents to Councillor Craig's question previously as well. They'll become more part of the existing system, and staff will do what we can to better support them as part of that.
So they would need to be part of our system in a more fulsome way before we could provide them with more support. Is that what I just heard?
Through you, Chair. So that the support we've been providing them to date has been what we can do. We've also been doing that on the basis that the allocations provided to them were temporary. And so should we be annualizing them and funding them more regularly going forward and knowing that they're going to be a permanent fixture in our system, that will alter our approach somewhat into working with them. So long answer to say yes, you heard it correctly, Councillor Schatz.
Okay, thanks for that clarity.
Okay, Chair Redmond.
Just going to ask you to call the question.
Is there a mover? I will move it. Moved by Councillor Unick, seconded by Councillor Foxton. If you move or use your e-scribe buttons to indicate your support. And that is carried. Item 7.1.2, the Waterloo Region Housing Revitalization Plan. And I'll call on Commissioner Sweeney to introduce this report.
Sure, and then I'll pass it over to Ryan to start again. But before I do that, just again a note that this is staff's attempt to give council some context and some background information now for information to contemplate, to ask us some questions. But the intent is to make sure that you have this and have time to digest it before you arrive at November 19th for the overall plan and budget capital day, where there will be some assumptions built in or some recommendations that come forward from the rest of the team here. So again, just for context, this is really just to give you that time and space, given the complexity of the Building Better Futures and the WRH revitalization. So Ryan, if you want to start again with a couple of key highlights, and then again, we'll open it up to questions and comments.
Thanks, Peter, and through you, Chair. Bit of deja vu here, but I'll skip over some of the previous remarks and keep it short. So we're 5 years into our WRH revitalization plan now. In the context that we find ourselves in today is an environment that's greatly different than it was 5 years ago, as we're facing the challenges of completing and implementing our final 3 projects at Moorgate, Cortland Shelley, and Weber Street. And those projects now have a much more significant impact on the region's broader capital program and overall financial stability than initially forecast back in 2019. Specifically, as debt servicing costs for these projects begin to impact the regional operating budget. The report in front of you this afternoon outlines further context and proposes a path forward that balances both the community need for affordable housing and fiscal responsibility. To achieve that balance, it is required that the redevelopment project at Moorgate is delayed by 1 year to smooth out the capital and debt cost profiles, and that the projects at Cortland Shelley and Weber Street are pushed out in the capital plan beyond 2030 to allow the opportunity for them to fit better into that capital plan, but also for the opportunity for staff to complete business cases in 2026 in reconsideration of both the development and the operating models of those 2 sites. So again, as Peter mentioned, the information provided to you today is not for the purposes of making a decision today, but for your consideration leading up to and through plan and budget in 2026. The path proposed is not without risk or without consequences, as detailed in the report, but is one that staff feel provides the best achievable balance in providing both affordable homes in being financially responsible. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Hunick.
Thank you, Chair Erb. I wonder if Commissioner Sweeney or Director Petitpier could speak to the number of individuals or families that are currently on the housing wait list and the average that are added to that number every year. What I'm trying to get at is how much are we contributing to the housing backlog by delaying this by a year?
Mr. Pettier.
Thank you, and through you, Chair. Councillor Hunick, our current wait list for affordable housing in the region recently surpassed 11,000 applications. That's applications, that's not individuals. Individuals attached to those applications, we usually average about 2.5. So that would be the number of impacted individuals that are currently on our regional wait list. That list grows at a rate of approximately 5 to 15% every single year. And more recently, over the last few years, it's been closer to that 15% mark in terms of growth overall. So it's been continuing to accelerate and grow exponentially over the last few years.
Okay, so I don't know if this is correct because I'm doing the math in my head, but I just want us to be aware of the fact that there's already 30,000 people waiting for housing in our region, and put ourselves in the shoes of those individuals and families. Thanks.
Councillor Rodriguez.
Yeah, thank you, Chair, and through you. I first want to thank staff for this report. I think we're dealing with a new paradigm now, and I appreciate the honesty and forwardness of this report, and sort of everything's on the table. So I do appreciate it. And admittedly, when I first read it, it was a gut punch in terms of what we're able to achieve. I do take some, solace isn't the word, but I take some comfort that this isn't part of the 5% discussion, that it is a broader fiscal management conversation that we're having. So I take some solace there. But before I get into it, a question for staff, just for the benefit of council. Can you remind us of the tenant relocations program for both Moorgate and Cortland Shelley, and where we're at right now?
Mr. Petitpier.
Through you, Chair. Happy to, councillors. So the tenants from the Moorgate redevelopment have been completely moved out. So those were originally 55 units at that site. All tenants and families have been currently relocated. We've begun the relocation program at Cortland Shelley. We're probably about halfway through that work at that site right now.
Thank you, Ryan. And so, colleagues, you'll see a motion that's populated in eScribe now, looking to not presuppose our budget decision regardless. I'm happy to move it. And what it's really trying to get at is that regardless of how we decide on to proceed through the budget process, there's a lot of information that I think would be really beneficial to us to go forward from here. So the first, just a bit of an overview, it's in eScribe, and I can read it out, Chair, when the time is appropriate. But it really is looking to, the first is specifically related to Moorgate, how we can advance that project within 1 year. We've moved everyone out of that site, and that's a process that we have started and is well underway, and we now have a vacant property. So looking to get some information early next year with respect to how we can advance that. And then the second relates to a report that came forward before my time here with respect to exploring additional opportunities for the remainder of the projects. And so this is just asking for some additional information and for staff to look at all partnership opportunities and ways to proceed on the balance of the projects, but perhaps less specifically to Moorgate. So it's populated in eScribe, and I see my colleague, Councillor Harris, has chimed in. I'm amenable to second that.
I'm wondering if you would like to, or if you would read it out, please, so that...
Let me have a sip of water first.
He did second it, Harris.
Yeah.
Yep, so the motion that I'm moving is that the Regional Municipality of Waterloo direct the Commissioner of Community Services and Commissioner of Corporate Services to report to the Community and Health Services Committee by the end of Q1 2026 to do the following two things. First is to identify and bring forward all viable funding and financing opportunities, including but not limited to reprioritizing other regional projects to achieve the long-term debt sustainability principles, to advance construction of Moorgate within 1 year, as identified in today's report, and two, to provide an update to report CSD HOU 24-021 from December 3rd, 24, where Council directed staff to explore affordable housing development partnership opportunities with the nonprofit and private sectors that create enhanced or additional long-term affordable housing units are beneficial for existing tenants or produce cost-sharing outcomes, as well as present a plan to advance site and development readiness in the interim prior to construction. And I'll just say one more thing to that last item, and that's to say that while we may not, while we get our ducks in a row on what the actual projects look like, there may be work that we can advance to get the site ready to be able to proceed when the dollars are available. So I think it'd be really helpful to understand what work can proceed in the interim, whether it's site preparation or anything like that. So that's the motion, and I don't know if Councillor Harris, I'll pass it back to the chair, actually.
Yeah, so it's been moved by Councillor Rodriguez and seconded by Councillor Harris. All right, next speaker, Councillor McCabe.
Thank you very much. Just a couple, excuse me, just a couple of questions. I'm just curious, if we proceed with the motion as Councillor Rodriguez has tabled, or just the process that staff had proposed, I'm curious about how that might, if we know yet at all anything about Build Canada Homes and what the criteria they might have will be, and if we say we're reprofiling something, will that drop it down in their list of potential projects to fund, or do you have a sense yet of what that might do for an application to Build Canada Homes?
Mr. Pettier.
Yeah, thanks for the question, Councillor, and through you, Chair. We know very little about Build Canada Homes at this point in time. So this new BCH entity, other than what's been in the media to date, so we know that it's coming. We know several of the flagship programs based under CMHC at this point will be shifting over there. But the details of what that programming is going to look like, we don't know. So we're eagerly awaiting that. Maybe some additional information through today's budget announcement that we'll parse carefully. One of the things that I think that we do need to point out based on your question is if we are delaying Moorgate, the current funding that is associated with that project from Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation is at risk. So that's close to $75 million of grant and repayable loan funding that we're unsure of what that's going to look like through the new entity with BCH.
Okay. Okay. I guess hopefully hopefully there's a bunch of new information about Build Canada Homes being released right about now. And my other question, I guess, is more to Councillor Rodriguez, to his motion. Like through what you have in your motion, are you through that suggesting that like a different model, kind of like a Build Now type model, Build Now WR type model, where the region is partnering with nonprofits and maybe even the private sector in some cases, so that they build and maybe own the properties rather than the region, or what? I'm just curious what you're thinking around that.
Thanks for the question. I think it would be premature for me to presuppose the work of staff, but I would say that could be an outcome that they explore. I'd say I hope it's worded in a way that all possibilities are on the table, and if staff suggest otherwise, I'm happy to refine. But I think any of those partnerships, it's a great model that's up your way. But if it works for us, then perhaps that's a way forward. But it may not. So I wouldn't want to presuppose that work.
Can I ask that question to staff then? Is it like is working with an organization like Build Now? It doesn't have to be Build Now, but like are you exploring those partnerships as well with this reprofiling?
Yeah, certainly. So I would go to Councillor Rodriguez's second part of that motion, which is referring back to a report that we brought back in December. And so council directed us to do some of that work and didn't get specific on the who. And so we've actually put a lot of work into that. So for us to come back and report back on that work in the new year is not a challenge for us. And I would say, when we look at the total number of Waterloo Regional Housing units that are part of the Building Better Futures Global. We're at 600 over 2,500. And so, you're at about 25% publicly owned, both in terms of land and the asset itself. We feel that's a pretty reasonable mix. We know when we look around other communities around the world who perhaps don't struggle in this area as much as we do in North America, public ownership of affordable housing and social housing is a really important mix. So we want to make sure that we're balancing the long term and the short term. And, to be clear, simply delaying one of these projects by a year doesn't in and of itself make the challenge of the debt servicing problem go away. So we have to be looking at different things. And to Ryan's point, this is a decision made by a previous council 5 years ago under different circumstances. And we felt at this point here, again, we brought to council last year through plan and budget, we showed council the entire sort of impact of the debt and the debt servicing for all of Building Better Futures. And this is just us coming back and saying we need to continue to maybe look at some different models without presupposing what it is. But that public ownership piece is a really important element to the overall strategy that we'd like to maintain as much as possible.
Right, and absolutely, I agree. I mean, when I've mentioned the private piece, it's not for ownership. It would be for like just partnering on the build or something like that. Okay, thank you.
Chair Redmond.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to echo Councillor Rodriguez's comment that I really do appreciate what a honest, candid conversation this is. And it's not that when the region issues debt, it doesn't get bought. It does. We have a AAA rating. It's that servicing of the debt and our sustainability over the long run. And Peter's already referred to that. I think that that's a really healthy way for us to look at context and the long game. This obviously isn't a consideration that was made lightly by staff. And the CMHC funding is a consideration. And when, Councillor Rodriguez, when you put this motion forward, I'm really supportive of this because you're not presupposing what staff will bring back. I immediately thought of my Habitat for Humanity days and the community investment funds that are available through some community foundations. I don't know that as a level of government if we're eligible for those kind of grants, but I know in the Habitat world in Hamilton, it was very well used as a financing method. So I look forward to this. I'm fully supportive of this motion and thank both Councillor Rodriguez and Councillor Harris for bringing it forward.
Councillor Harris.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I will say, it's a difficult thing for staff, especially this particular staff who want to see projects like this proceed in a timely fashion because they know firsthand of the need that we have every day. And so I feel for them to bring this actual recommendation forward, knowing that we actually have a fiscal constraint as well to deal with. And there's got to be a balance of both. And so I'm supportive of Councillor Rodriguez's motion. I was somewhat helpful perhaps in it slightly, but I hope that staff will take this and know that everything is on the table in terms of, looking at all options available. And I echo Chair Redmond's comments with regards to habitat. Our community is punching above its weight, frankly, in what it's doing, combining forces through Build Waterloo Region or Build Now and Habitat for Humanity, and the work that's happening, with the private sector and the public and not-for-profit up in Waterloo, for example. And I think, we're hopeful that you'll have fruitful conversations with those same folks to say or see how we can, get to the end result of building more units. And I know that there's this public-private, perhaps, consideration, but I hope that they'll at least bring us everything, including what might more private look like in delivering this project. And I added that line in with Councillor Rodriguez about the advancement of the sites. We know firsthand from other municipalities who perhaps put a pause button on things like this for a variety of reasons. The planning part of it also pauses, and I hope that our staff at the region can continue to move at a lightning speed in getting the sites ready to go, shovel ready, records of site condition, whatever other provincial approvals that are required to continue moving this project along. I really hope we can continue on with that, because once we get a report back and council makes a decision and perhaps better times exist, we'll be ready to go. And the site will be ready, because that doesn't happen overnight. And I think that's just an aspect of Councilor Rodriguez's motion that we want to make sure is highlighted. So thank you.
Mr. Sweeney.
Thank you, Councillor Harris. Just as a note and for everybody around the Horseshoe, the project at Moorgate is about as shovel ready as a project could be. So to the comment around the new federal initiative and our CMHC partners, we do have the benefit of having an ambitious, thoughtful, community-driven project that will make a significant difference in this community, ready to go. And Councillor Harris, I also just publicly want to thank you for your opening comments around the challenge with this. This is a staff team that's been working on this for many, many years, and it is a challenging place to be in when we see the need every single day. And so I just want to say thank you and appreciate that comment at the beginning.
Oh, I turned my head and all of a sudden there's 2 or 3 more speakers, because Councillor Wolf was going to, I was going to say you're going to be the last speaker, because we're winding down here to where we're going to have a quorum if Councillor Foxton is leaving at 4:30. So Councillor Wolf, go ahead, and then Rodriguez and McCabe, this is your second questions, and if they're not burning questions, anyway, Councillor Wolf.
Through you, Mr. Chair. First of all, was each department required to come up with a less than 5% increase in spending for the budget?
Yeah, so through the chair, and apologies for I have missed that one. So yes, in the budget process, we did a very rigorous and thorough budget process where each department was asked to grow to 3% and give us their scenario for what 3% would be. And then we prioritized options across the departments so that some departments landed below 3%, to be honest, and some are way over 5%. You will see those in the materials we're bringing forward for November 18th. And it's also in the council education sessions that are happening this week as to the details on the service adjustments.
Okay, thank you. I guess I don't really agree with that method. I just see in this department where, for instance, affordable housing is a priority, and we look at where we're spending money on shelters, et cetera, and we know that's not where we should be putting the money. We know it's in affordable housing to get the people out. We heard from Better Tent City, they have so many people there ready to be housed, but they need the housing. So to me, to cut back, and especially where we might lose $75 million in CMHC funding, is not the place. In this department, when we cut back on certain programs and budgets, people can die. You know, so it's, to me, it's not equal across the all departments, that cutting 5% here is the same as 5% there. So I would, at this point, wouldn't be voting for this motion, because I don't think, I think this is false economy. I don't think this is where we should be cutting back.
Thank you. Councillor Rodriguez, is this relative to the motion?
Yeah, just a quick question related to the report. The 30-year debenture policy that we recently pursued, is that part, does that factor into this and how we spread the debt load over a period? Yes? Great.
Yes.
Thank you.
And I can confirm as well through the chair, in the capital plan, all major housing projects, all major developments are following our new guidelines that we put out in a council report earlier this year. Morgate is at 30 years.
Thank you.
Is it reasonable to call the questions here with all these?
I just wanted to double check with before I vote for or against that when you're saying about reprofiling, that like this includes things outside of the community and health services portfolio. Like it could mean, you know, we reprofile, like we pause, or sorry, when we're pausing other programs, that could be from, like, we don't go ahead with a road in order to fund something like this.
Yes. Again, I don't want to presuppose the work. I think it's highly vague, and if we can pull from where we need to. So short answer, yes.
I just wanted to make sure it's not just reprioritizing program or projects in Peter's portfolio. It's like across the board. Okay.
Councillor Hunick.
Thank you, Chair. I'm worried about misunderstanding the motion on the table. So when Councillor Rodriguez read it, I didn't hear cutbacks. So I don't know if I need to hear from Councillor Wolf or Councillor Rodriguez around this misunderstanding now. I'm asking because it changes my vote.
Councillor Rodriguez.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I would just say that there's nothing in here that suggests a cutback. This isn't trying to presuppose the budget decision. The budget decision will happen in a month. This is just, regardless if we say yes or no at budget, this is information that we would need regardless going forward. So, yeah, there's no. It's an information item. There's no financial recommendation in this.
Thank you for the clarification.
Okay, and I would say I was speaking more to the report here than to the motion.
Okay, we are going to call the question. It is moved by Councillor Rodriguez, seconded by Councillor Harris. If you would use your e-scribe buttons to indicate your support. My screen has gone off. I'm in favor. I'm in favor. Are you still there, Councillor Liggett? Okay. That is carried. Yeah, but you said you were leaving at 4:30. Yeah. Anyway, let's move on to number 8, which is the Information Council tracking list. We have none. On to number 9, is there any other business? No, no other business. Our next meeting is on December the 2nd. Put that in your calendar. Could I have a motion to adjourn? Councillor Solomon, Councillor McCabe. Use your e-scribe buttons to indicate your support, please. Talk about going down to the wire. And that is carried. Thanks, everybody.